Just wanted to finish on your thoughts on this thing you call clip culture. I think it's really interesting, some of your ideas around it, in the fact that, a lot of times small pieces of video kind of get co-opted, and you had a way of saying that we all can kind of read in what we want to read in based on kind of the size of the clip. I wonder if you could talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually spoke about this with Joe Rogan on his show, and I specifically mentioned a clip of an African-American guy that somebody sent me a few weeks ago on Twitter, and it was just 40 or so seconds long. Maybe there were two of them, and it totaled up a little over a minute. I don't remember how exactly it went, but it's just a very short clip. And he's saying, white people ain't going to take it no more. They're not going to take it. They're going to rise up, and I'm going with them. And he's like all fired up. White people are going to rise up. And the context in your head is like, whoa, there's these riots. And so I wanted to share the clip, so I went on YouTube and I found the clip, and it has a number of different versions on YouTube, one of which was that very short, 40 some odd second or minute and 15 second or whatever. And then there's another one that was 4.5 minutes, and there was one that was 10, and I think there was one that was over an hour from which it was pulled. And I watched the 4.5 minute one, and I was laughing along. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's so angry. And it's like he's speaking to a piece of anger that people aren't going to keep taking this forever. Not that it's right that people rise up. I don't think people should rise up. I think people should, except in, saying no, that's enough. I don't think people should rise up physically. But I'm kind of laughing along with his passion. And then all of a sudden it switches past the end of what I had seen. And he's like, this president is divisive. This president's tearing the country apart. This president is the problem. This president has to go. And I was like, wow, that kind of doesn't quite square with some of the stuff he was saying before, but he's railing on Trump. Wow, that's what this was really about, was railing on Trump. The white people aren't going to take it anymore. All this mayhem happening in society, and you're piecing together the story. There's all this mayhem. Trump was divisive. Trump caused the mayhem. Nobody's going to take it anymore. And then all of a sudden, another minute or so into the clip, he's like, President Obama's the biggest problem that's ever been in this country. And you're like, oh, this is totally different. And then I finally looked. Maybe I should have looked in the first place, but how my brain works is how a lot of brains work, I would think. And I was like, 7 years ago. The clip was uploaded 7 years ago. So the context was assumed where the facts weren't all present. And especially on Twitter, there was no context. It was just this guy at a microphone ranting. And it's like, wow, this is what's happening. There are actually several books that are out about it, saying that we live in an era of images. And so that we see the picture on the internet, which is scary because of Photoshop, and we see the video, which is scary because of clipping, and which is scary because of deep fake, and which is scary because of the ability to manipulate video in other ways. And we project what we believe is going on onto that clip or onto that image, and thus then draw significant conclusions about the realities of the world based upon that. And it's a very mediated kind of culture. There is actually a book called Mediated that talks about the media universe acting in this way. I think it's from like 2005 or something. It's old. And refers to it as the blob. The blob comes along, that's the media, and it consumes and digests with its digestive juices all the information that of a real event in the world, and it does this very quickly, and then it regurgitates the various clipped out narratives. And I think this actually happens to people. There are like probably 10 James Lindsays on Twitter. There's only one that's the account, and then there's 10 different versions where people clip up my tweets and change the wording and try to create a narrative of who I really am based on selective readings of my tweets. I even see it in real time where I'll make a tweet that has a context of a tweet from, say, 2 hours earlier, and maybe not many people saw the tweet 2 hours earlier, or maybe even they did, and they run with the context of just the one tweet they see, which often they see only in screenshots, which is now a clipped image. So like I could do a thread, for example, that has some controversial take in it, and then they could clip out one of those tweets and create a whole narrative about how psychotic I am, where all the context has been removed. And this happens in real time, and they deconstruct people even at this point. And anybody who's been the center of a media event knows that this is what happens. You lose control of the narrative. But it's like on hyperdrive now with this kind of clip culture, mediated epistemology would be the kind of nerdy academic way to say it, that we now have to figure out how to navigate. because it's a genie that doesn't go back in the bottle. So we have to figure out how to navigate the fact that we live in a world that is more or less constructed in social media universe out of deep fake everything. And that will get worse. When we can properly deep fake video, that will become an intolerable menace. We have to actually start figuring out how to deal with the societally. I'm not talking like you and I mean, everybody. We've got to start figuring out how to deal with this new mediated universe of social and even mainstream broadcast media.